Hi, so we're back with American Miscellany, published in 1865. So it's a rainy day and I can't read outside, but hopefully you can still see my tomatoes. Still got a ton of them growing out there right over top of the book. Yeah, I'm going to have another harvest soon. Maybe make some spaghetti, of course. All right, so let's get back to it. We just finished essay number 16, which was Boston Common, and we're moving on to essay number 17 on page 54 of American Miscellany. So our essay is titled View of Niagara Falls Below Table Rock. And here they have a beautiful engraving. Let's see if we can get a little close-up of the engraving here. There we go. View of Niagara Falls below Table Rock. It's nice. Okay. Among the many points that arrest the attention of the traveler at Niagara, there is none which he beholds with greater awe, or which so fully reveals to him the vastness of the mighty cataract, as the one depicted in our engraving. Naturally, the interest of the view is greatly heightened by the impending cliff, which has the appearance of being about to fall and crush all beneath it. A few years since, the most projecting part of it fell, and now a large and very deep crack has widened around the remaining area of the platform above. Yet, notwithstanding its fearful appearance, ladies and gentlemen crowd its broad summit at all hours, walking, drawing, and gazing, in the fullest confidence that rocks have bases. And so it will go on, probably, till the one thunder too many hammers through its crack of doom. One too many hammers through its crack of doom. The path leading behind the sheet of the Horseshoe Fall, which is on the Canada side, runs close under the cliff of Table Rock, and between the spray and the small rivulets that trickle over the sharp edge or find their way out of the numerous crevices on the face of the precipice, it is as wet as the lawn blessed with perpetual rain by the Witch of Atlas. A small shanty stands at the head of the staircase where a reading room and registry are kept, and curious walking sticks, cut at Niagara, minerals, spars, and stuffed scorpions vended. The proprietor also officiating as guide under the falls. Parties are formed daily to visit this part of the falls and to go behind the sheet. The mode of procedure is so interesting that we will give an account of a visit to it. The ladies were taken into a small apartment to change their dresses preparatory to their descent, and the guide soon metamorphosed his cavaliers into a brigand-looking a set of tatterdemalions, as could be found in the Abruzzi. Of course, that's where you get tatterdemalions, in the Abruzzi. Double Z. Rough duck trousers, long jackets of green painted cloth, oilskin hats, and flannel shirts, the whole turnout very much like the clothes of the drowned exhibited for recognition at the mosque in Paris, constituted our habiliments. This author has some interesting metaphors. The difference of the female costume consisted in the substitution of a coarse petticoat for the trousers and a string tied over the broad-brimmed hat. It's the Broen-brimmed hat. Yeah, a string tied over the Broen-brimmed hat. And thus arrayed, few would have known us or been willing to recognize us as their friends. The most ludicrous part of the expedition is passing in review before the curious persons collected on the way. The guide went before, and we followed close under the cliff. A cold, clammy wind blew strong in our faces from the moment we left the shelter of the staircase, and a few steps brought us into a pelting fine rain that penetrated every opening of our dresses and made our foothold very slippery and difficult. We were not yet near the sheet of water we were to walk through. One of our party gave out and returned, declaring that it was impossible to breathe. The rest, imitating the guide, bent nearly double to keep the beating spray from their nostrils, and pushed on, with enough to do to keep sight of his feet. We arrived near the difficult point of our progress, and in the midst of a confusion of blinding gusts, half deafened and more than half drowned, the guide stopped to give us a little counsel on how to proceed the remainder of the way. All that could be heard amid the thunder of the cataract beside us was an injunction to push on when it got to the worst, as it was shorter to get beyond the sheet than to go back. And with this pleasant statement of our dilemma, we are faced about with the longest breath we could draw, and encountered the enemy. It may be supposed that every person who has been dragged through the column of water which obstructs the entrance to the caves behind this cataract has a very tolerable idea of the pains of drowning. What is wanting in the density of the element is more than made up for by the force of the contending winds, which rush into the mouth, eyes, and nostrils as if flying from a water fiend. Yeah, I saw those at Niagara Falls. The courage of worse behind alone persuades the gasping sufferer to take one desperate step more. It is difficult enough to breathe within, but with a little self-control and management, the nostrils may be guarded from the watery particles in the atmosphere. And then an impression is made upon the mind by the extraordinary pavilion above and around, which never loses its vividness. The natural bend of the falling cataract and the backward shelf of the precipice form an immense area like the interior of a tent, but so pervaded by discharges of mist and spray that it is impossible to see far inward. Outward, the light struggles brokenly through the crystal wall of the cataract, and when the sun shines directly on its face, it is a scene of unimaginable glory. The footing is rather unsteadfast, the path being only a narrow shelf composed of loose and slippery stones. A chain has been fastened to the rock part of the way, which somewhat aids the visitor in the most dangerous portion of the passage. The distance from where the falls commence to the termination rock is 230 feet. Beyond this point, it is impossible for man to penetrate, as the ledge there rises perpendicularly from the water to the top of the falls. On the whole, the undertaking of a passage under the sheet is rather more pleasant to remember than to achieve. The following lines, written a few years since by the late Grenville Mellon, after going within the Vale of Niagara, beautifully expresses the emotions produced in the minds of those who have witnessed the majestic scene. O God, my prayer is to thee, amid sounds that rock the world. I've seen thy majesty within the vale. I've heard the anthem shout of a great ocean as it leaped in the mist about my thunder-shaken path. Thy voice, as centuries have heard it, in the rush and the roar of waters. I have bent my brow within thy rainbow and have lifted up my shriek mid these vast cadences. I've seen what is the wonder of eternity, and what this visioned nothingness of man. That's at Table Rock, August 22nd, 1838.